It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders. And of course, the most insider question of all in Wisconsin legislative politics is the state budget. And this year, as they head into the state budget, there is an enormous surplus, the largest surplus in Wisconsin history. And in fact, revenues continue to seem to perform pretty well in the state. So there might be more money coming. That's the sort of thing politicians love to fight over. Chuck, what do you think is going to happen with the surplus and the budget fight in 25?
You know, I think the dynamics here are much different than they have been for the entire time that Governor Evers has been in, and he will be coming up on 8 years, at least 7 years when this budget is decided. The difference is that in the past, he's always had to deal with absolutely certain, tremendously overwhelming Republican majorities. Governor Evers is going to have a different situation with this budget. He will be looking out at the horizon and realizing that if he doesn't get a deal with Republicans, and it would be a bad deal, Robin Vos is very good at making sure he gets everything he wants for his side. The governor will be looking at this and saying, I could get, the way Robin negotiates, maybe I can get 20, 30% of what I want. Or I could put this aside and get 80 to 90% of what I want after the next election when the Democrats control the Senate and either have a majority or one vote off in the Assembly. So I think the budget surplus issue this time will not be as easy for the Republicans to manipulate as they have. Now, you could say, hey, they're both coming up on election. Everybody's going to want to bring home the bacon in some way. But you know what? The Republicans are in control of both houses. And I think, frankly, they will pay a bigger price because Governor Evers is going to say, I've wanted to compromise, but these guys just won't do it. Here's what I was ready to do. Here's what they were ready to do. And it will hang more on them than it will on him. And by the way, there's also the chance, think of this for a minute. Governor Evers could say, I've done a good job here, but, it's time to take a little time for myself and my family. But I'm not going to announce. In fact, I might even announce that I'm running for governor. But after the budget's over, I can say, it's time for me to let someone else have a chance at this. He doesn't even have the stigma of being against the budget. Not that that would hurt that much, but the Republicans get the disadvantage. And all of a sudden, they are left holding the bag. There are billions of dollars. Anybody will be able to say, and let's add the federal health care money to this, another $1 billion plus. I think that the Republicans are in a very vulnerable situation given what's happening here. And I think the dynamics on this budget could be very different. He doesn't need a deal with them. He really does not need a deal, either for him to win or for him to say, well, I'm running and then step aside. I think the Republicans Governor Evers has all of the cards in his hand. He's holding a full house. And I don't think that the Republicans are going to be able to draw a straight flush. And that's what they're looking for here.
Well, I didn't realize the Democratic candidate switcheroo thing was going to be this commonplace. It didn't work out real well last time, as I recall. But let me just say with regard to this, I actually do think that each side can make their case to the voters. Each side can make their case at the negotiating table. And you can send something to the governor. He vetoes it. Okay, you can say we tried to give you this. He said no. That's something you can run on. It is something that's valuable. You can also then have situations where people hold out for a long time, but eventually they come to an agreement. And I believe you and I did that, where I said I wasn't going to leave town without the largest tax cut in Wisconsin history. And you said you wanted the senior drug prescription program, and so much money came in, we were able to eventually do both. I think that is possible here, that they're going to do that. And while the governor, I think, may sometimes get frustrated with the legislature, when you ask people who's in charge of Wisconsin, they don't say the legislature. The governor's in charge of the state, and most people, the governor's the one who people look to get things done. And even if people think, well, he's a nice guy, he's probably not the one at fault, they're still going to say, yeah, but you can't get it done 2 budgets in a row. We just keep having this surplus. It doesn't go to what you want it to go to, and it doesn't come back to the voters. There's nobody who's a winner in that situation except who's ever getting the interest off of the state bank accounts. I mean, there's no winner in walking away from a deal here. I think that momentum will be extraordinary with all the money that is available there for them to find a deal. Last time they had a smaller pot of money and they were able to find a deal, and I think that will happen again this time around.
If you're a negotiator, tell me why you would take 30 to 40% of what you can get in a deal, when if you just wait 2 years, you can get 90 to 100% of that deal. And on top of that, you also get a chance to ensure that you won't have to deal with Robin Boss anymore. Ooh,
So you're
that's pretty
missing
appealing.
one.
And by the way, there's one other component to this. Tony Evers already has more money for the public schools baked into the equation with his veto. So he has strategically set himself up so he doesn't lose, but Robin Boss and the majorities in both houses can lose. I think they're pretty savvy. They've been around for a while now. I think that they're going to say, you better cut us a pretty sweet deal here, Robin, or you're not coming back.
So you laid out what we used to call in graduate school a decision tree, but you missed one number in there. What are the odds of the Democrats taking both houses of the legislature in 26? And you apparently think that's 100%. It's not. The odds of that number are probably less than 50%. They might take the state Senate. They are not going to take the state assembly, and the governor will get nothing for all of that.
Scott, I would refer
He'll
you
just
to
have the
your
battle again. This is the second time we've seen this same conversation, and he would have this conversation a third time. And at that point, I think the voters would start to say, what the heck is wrong with you people?
That was the Democratic line for this last election. It didn't work.
Yeah,
But
didn't
I
work
would
out
refer
very
you
well.
to your previous remarks here, Scott, where you said that the second presidency, which is what this is for Trump, in the midterm is the worst time for them. Because this is Trump, this is going to be a reaction election. I would say it may not, it's not 100, it's never 100%, but I would say it's about as close as you can get that that's what's going to happen in this thing, because we now have fair maps and the Democrats can hone in on the 6 or 7 seats that they need 5 of to win in the assembly. The Senate is baked in. I think that Tony Evers can take that chance. And if it doesn't work, he can just go back and cut that deal in the next budget. He can still make that happen. So there you go.
Yeah. Cycle 3, no money going out to anybody. We're just going to keep it here in Madison. I don't know that that's a great tactic for getting reelected, but we'll see.
We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to The Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.